League of Legends is a turn-based game. Now, let me explain. I don't mean in the traditional sense where only one player is allowed to take an action at a time, but in a more action-response way. If you think about it, League of Legends can be a lot like a card game like Magic the Gathering or Legends of Runeterra. In League of Legends, however, your resource isn't mana, it's tempo. You spend your tempo to take actions just like how you spend your mana to play cards. In this episode, I'll be talking about why this play pattern is important, as well as relating quite a few concepts in League to ideas in Magic the Gathering and Legends of Runeterra to hopefully provide some more clarity to this play pattern. But before I do, let's define a couple of things first. A turn starts when you leave base and get out onto the map, and ends when you finish a recall and return to base. Tempo is, at its core, your ability to influence the map. Your tempo is determined by your current HP and resource bar, level, items or active gold, cooldowns, and champion, but also what your enemies are doing. One key concept is unspent or inactive gold. Ending your turn with tempo still available isn't ideal as it's wasted potential, but it's important to compare the amount of tempo that you have versus how much more you'll have once you recall. Since League is played in real time, it's more important to spend more tempo per minute rather than tempo per turn. I'll go more into this later. Finally, an action is something that you do to advance your game plan. Actions will typically reduce your tempo, but won't always. Some examples of actions would be clearing waves, warding, or trading with your opponent. Okay, that's cool, but what's the importance of this play pattern? Why should you care about the turn-based style of play? I personally like to use it because it makes the game a lot simpler. League is a complex game with many moving parts. It can get overwhelming, especially when you're learning to process all the information that's been given to you. I like this play pattern because it condenses a lot of decisions into simpler terms. Tempo, recall timings, item spikes, resource management, all important concepts, and all kept in mind in this playstyle. I personally find that it makes a lot of decisions a lot easier, but more importantly in my MMR bracket, faster for me to make. Especially since I've been playing card games like Magic the Gathering for over 10 years. On the topic of Magic the Gathering, there's this card called Time Walk, which allows you to take another turn. In both Magic the Gathering and League, taking extra turns is a very powerful tool, so powerful in fact that Time Walk is banned in most formats. League, however, does not have banned actions, so you're allowed to Time Walk, or spend tempo you don't have, whenever you want. For example, if you're on 50 HP with no ultimate or summoner spells, you're most likely out of tempo. However, shoving a wave under the enemy's tower doesn't require much HP to do, especially in the mid to late game when champion's wave clear is very strong. You basically get to cheat and take free actions. However, like in most games, if you're caught cheating, then you're going to get punished for it. If you decide to shove that wave under the tower and an enemy shows up, well, you probably know what's going to happen next. So I've gone over using tempo that you don't have, but now I'm going to go back to recalling while you still have tempo left. If you watch pro play, oftentimes the players will recall with just a sliver of health left, having used all their resources. They reset to gain their tempo, but you'll also see them recalling with near full HP. You might say, well, yeah, obviously they're going to buy an item, and you'd be right. But just because you have an item available doesn't mean you need to recall. Sometimes you'll want to stay a bit longer to be able to get an even stronger recall. In many card games, there are mechanics or cards that let you give a little bit of tempo now to get a more explosive turn later. Spell mana in Legends of Runeterra, for example, passing the turn with unspent mana gets turned into spell mana up to 3. For another example, Magic the Gathering has cards that the community refers to as rituals. They're one-time use cards that give you more mana than you put in, Dark Ritual being the most well-known. Ritual effects are usually used to have extremely explosive turns. So, although I may be able to use a ritual card to keep going on my turn, using up all of my tempo, it's far better for me to end my turn with some mana remaining to have an even stronger next turn. It's the same for League. If you have a lot of inactive gold, any tempo you use is inefficient as you'll have fewer stats. It's important to know when to sacrifice some tempo right now to gain a huge boost later. Recalling with tempo also helps you re-establish your lead. This is most apparent in the early laning phase. Let's say that at level 5 you kill your lane opponent and shove the wave under their tower. Even if you're at full health and resource, your opponent will come back stronger than you, as they get to spend their 650 gold, whereas you're sitting on your 1300 gold. Recalling will let you use your kill and CS lead, continuing to be ahead of your opponent in Snowball. Again, it's important to know that since League is played in real time, it's much more important to be efficient over time rather than over turns. To conclude, The turn-based playstyle is an attempt to reframe and simplify the idea of tempo. Its key ideas are making decisions easier, especially knowing when to use tempo when you don't have it, as well as losing tempo that you have now to gain a larger advantage later. I'll see you soon, and as always, thank you for watching.